Hello and welcome. I am Likon Onobanjo. Here are stories making rounds beyond the continent. Beyond the continent begins in Russia. The foreign ministry has fired back at recent remarks by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz after he stated that Germany and other Western allies have lifted range restrictions on weapons supplied to Ukraine. Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova dismissed the announcements as self-promotion, saying that German arms will not alter what Moscow continues to call its special military operation in Ukraine. Russia warned that such a move would be at odds of reaching a peace agreement. Zakharova reiterated that Russia views such moves as provocative, but insisted they would not impact the overall direction of the conflict.
Человек должен соотносить все это с ответственностью за данные слова. Сколько людей, а это миллионы, мне кажется, вздрогнули после того, когда услышали какую-то новеллу из Берлина относительно, в общем, смертоносных вооружений. Да? Сомнительно, что глава германского правительства кем-либо был или остается уполномочен делать подобные заявления от имени других государств. Он ведь сказал о том, что это решение приняли Франция, Британия, США. То есть либо они уже как бы надо исходить из того, что опровергли это заявление канцлера Мерца, я имею в виду вице-канцлер, либо им надо как-то объясняться, кто ему поручал и где они такое решили. Мне кажется, очевидно, что Мерц решил заниматься в том числе и самопиаром. Может быть, человек новый не очень отдает отчет или не соизмеряет, так сказать, то, что говорит.
Still on the conflict in Ukraine, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Moscow is open to resuming direct peace talks with Ukraine and is suggesting Istanbul as the host city. Lavrov praised the Turkish city as a very good location following a meeting with his Turkish counterpart, Hakan Fidan, on Tuesday. Lavrov also took aim at European leaders, criticizing what he called their snobbishness and incompetence. His remarks come in response to recent comments by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who claimed that Ukraine's Western allies had lifted restrictions on the range of weapons supplied to Kyiv, a statement that has stirred confusion and debate across European capitals. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which began in February 2022, has left tens of thousands dead and devastated vast areas across the country's east and south. The prospect of new peace talks raises cautious hopes, but deep divisions remain.
Переговоров России и Украины, если вы спросите меня, я бы вновь обратился к нашим турецким друзьям. В Стамбуле очень хорошо. Заявил с пафосом французским, что Франция не воюет против российского народа и против России, а Франция содействует суверенитету, независимости, территориальной целостности Украины и ее вооруженным силам. Вот так он сказал. Он неправду говорит. Франция воюет против России, потому что ее ракеты дальнего радиуса действия используются нацистским режимом в Киеве для ударов по территории Российской Федерации. Заявление господина Мерца только лишний раз подчеркивает уровень компетентности лиц, которые сейчас в Европе прорвались к власти. И он вчера сказал с таким пафосом, что вот отныне и вовеки никаких ограничений на дальность ударов не остается. Причем говорил и за себя, и за Францию, и за Британию, и за Соединенные Штаты. Через несколько минут или через час вице-канцлер этого господина Мерца сказал, что вообще ни о чем подобном речи не шло и не идет. И, конечно, его как человека, который не любит препятствий на пути к достижению благородных целей, у него появляются определенные оценки, определенная риторика. Главное здесь не на риторику внимание обращать, а добиться, чтобы Европа прекратила саботировать движение к миру. Позицию России и Турции занимают по палестинской проблеме.
Meanwhile, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said on Tuesday that his country was ready to host a future round of talks between Ukraine and Russia, expressing hope that negotiations will swiftly lead to a ceasefire followed by lasting peace. Fidan told reporters at a joint news conference with his Russian counterpart that they have conveyed their request for the upcoming negotiations to take place in Turkey and assured them that they are ready to contribute to every discussions in every way. Fidan is on a two-day visit to Moscow and met with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday. Let's now turn our attention to England, where what was meant to be a night of celebration in Liverpool quickly turned to chaos and horror. Thousands of fans had filled the streets on Monday, reveling in their team's Premier League victory, but the jubilant atmosphere was shattered when a car plowed into the crowd, sending people running in panic. Emergency services rushed to the scene and several individuals were reported injured. Authorities are investigating the incident, but the motive remains unclear. For more on this developing story, here's News Central's international correspondent Avi Hagen's reports.
It was supposed to be a night of celebration, but by Tuesday, 4 people were fighting for their lives in hospital after a car ploughed into crowds gathered to celebrate Liverpool's Premier League title win. The incident happened just before 6 p.m. on Monday on Water Street in central Liverpool, a road close to traffic during the victory parade. But chaos unfolded when a car drove into the crowd, hitting dozens of people. Bystander footage shows the vehicle reversing and then accelerating through fans. Witnesses say several people were thrown onto the bonnet. 4, including a child, were trapped underneath. Emergency services confirm 47 people were injured, including 4 children. 27 were taken to hospital, with 4 in serious condition. Another 20 were treated at the scene. Police arrested a 53-year-old white British man at the scene. His identity hasn't been made public, but in an unusual move, officers revealed his ethnicity to prevent the spread of false rumours, something the region has seen before. Last year, misinformation following a tragic stabbing at a Taylor Swift-themed party led to violent anti-immigrant protests. Police are determined to avoid a repeat. Police say this is not terrorism. They believe it was an isolated incident, but questions remain. How did the driver access a closed road? Did he panic when surrounded by angry fans? One witness said the man appeared emotional and agitated, struggling to keep his car door shut as people tried to open it. Investigations continue, and for many in Liverpool, a night of joy will now be remembered for its pain. The city and its football community are left asking how something so tragic could happen at a moment meant to unite. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
Well, I'll tell you that U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Tuesday welcomed his Polish counterpart to the Pentagon. Hegseth held an honor cordon for Polish Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of National Defense, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, before their bilateral meeting. The meeting comes as the Conservative Political Action Conference, a U.S. group that seeks to spread conservative ideas worldwide, is holding its first meeting in Poland, where the second round of a presidential election will be held on June 1. The 2 candidates are vying to replace Polish President Andrzej Duda, a conservative whose second and final term ends in August.
We have reached a pivotal moment in the history of enduring alliance between Poland and the United States. Strong Polish-American relations are reflected in many recent meetings on various political and military levels. In today's rapidly changing world, security challenges have become more serious, complex, and interconnected than ever before. That's why we fully support President Donald Trump's administration's efforts to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. We are sure, and our broad defense cooperation is the best proof that the United States of America remains the guarantor of global stability and development. We are grateful for the US military presence in Poland, for the deployment of troops and the most advanced weapon systems, because it's a real contribution to strengthening our territory and our borders. This vital commitment provides Polish society with a strong sense of security and serves as an effective deterrence. Mr. Secretary, I'm confident that we share the same value and the same goals. Together we want to leverage our partnership on the next level and continue strengthening our enduring economic and military ties.
Now, King Charles III addressed the Canadian Parliament in Ottawa in an opening speech, emphasizing Canada's proud independence amid U.S. President Donald Trump's repeated threats to take over the country. Speaking from the throne, the King highlighted values such as democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination and freedom, principles Canadians hold dear and are determined to protect, describing the nation as facing a critical moment. This visit marks the monarch's first visit to Canada since ascending the throne, which serves as a strong reaffirmation of the enduring bond between Canada and the British Crown.
My dear late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, opened a new Canadian Parliament in 1957. The Second World War remained a fresh, painful memory. The Cold War was intensifying. Freedom and democracy were under threat. Canada was emerging as a growing economic power and a force for peace in the world. In the decades since, history has been punctuated by epoch-making events: the Vietnam War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the start of the War on Terror. Today, Canada faces another critical moment. Democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination, and freedom are values which Canadians hold dear, and ones which the government is determined to.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, nice to have you around. Now, what were the key highlights from King Charles's speech from the throne?
Yeah, King Charles gave the speech from the throne in Ottawa, and his main points, the beginning of the speech was more about King Charles talking about Canada and why he was there. Essentially, in the second part of the speech was about the government laying out what it plans to do, say, in the next 4 years. The King said that Canada has changed immensely since the last time a sovereign opened up Parliament. That was his mother in 1977, the last time the speech from the throne was given by a monarch. He said, today Canada faces another critical moment where democracy, pluralism, the rule of law, self-determination and freedom are values which Canada holds dear. He also talked about Canada's relationships, and that was a direct reference to what's happening with Canada's neighbour, that is the United States, saying that Canada is facing unprecedented challenges in our lifetimes. He also urged Canadians to stay true to Canadian values and said that the relationship between Canada and the US was rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. And he ended the speech on a really strong note that drew loads of applause from the audience, and that was, as the anthem reminds us, the true north is indeed strong and free.
So then why is this speech being seen as particularly significant for Canadians and the rest of the world?
Well, this is a really significant moment because of where we are geopolitically. Now, Mark Carney decided to invite King Charles to give this speech from the throne, the first monarch to do so since 1977, as a reminder to Donald Trump that Canada is a sovereign nation with the King as head of state and essentially isn't for sale. That's what Mark Carney said in the Oval Office with Donald Trump. He said Canada's not for sale, the same way that Buckingham Palace
is not for sale. And it was really about the King reasserting who Canada is in its sovereignty, reminding us, Donald Trump and his White House and his administration, that King Charles III is the head of state of that country. And also, it's about the King reasserting himself on the global stage. In 2024, we really didn't see a lot of royal visits from the King because of his cancer diagnosis and subsequent treatment. So this is about him reasserting himself on the global stage. We've really seen him play the part as diplomat-in-chief. We've seen him with President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. We have seen him with Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, the former Prime Minister, just before he stepped down. And we've seen him extend that royal visit, the unprecedented second royal visit, to President Donald Trump. So it's also about the King reasserting himself as diplomat-in-chief on the global stage and exercising that muscle of soft power.
So having listened to King Charles speak, how are the people now responding to everything that is laid on the table?
Well, Canadians have responded really positively to this speech. They really have felt that the King has had their back, has stepped up, has said as much as he possibly could while remaining apolitical, because our monarchs have to remain apolitical. So he said as much as he could in the speech, reaffirming who Canada is, talking about the relationship between Canada and the US, while then going on to lay out the Canadian government's, ambitions for the next 4 years. They're responding positively. They responded very positively to the King and the Queen on this whirlwind visit of about 24 hours or so. So it has been very well received. We haven't had a response from the White House, from Donald Trump, but we can be sure that he will comment on this.
Well, one other concerning thing that, of course, the global community will be worried about is when he talked about the goal to reduce temporary residents to 5% of Canada's population, which includes a cap on international students. How demoralizing might that be for potential foreign students?
Well, I mean, if you are a foreign student and you want to go to another country, whether it's Canada, whether it's the United Kingdom, whether it's the United States, and there's now going to be a cap on the number of immigrants that can come to that country, yes, of course, that is going to be demoralizing. And I think actually what that should do is give your own country a bit of a kick up the bum to make sure that their institutions are one that their students want to stay in, rather than feeling that they have to go to a Canada, a United Kingdom, or the United States. We saw the UK only a couple of weeks ago have strengthened their immigration rules, meaning that students can only stay for 18 months after their course is finished. It used to be 2 years, so it's making it a less attractive prospect. What this should do should make institutions around the world, make their universities more attractive, so students realise that it isn't necessary that you have to go to the UK, a Canada, or a United States to get a brilliant education. Hopefully you can get one at home if these universities are challenged to do so.
Thank you so much, Afia Hagen, for talking to us at this time. Let's now go to Asia. A regional association of Southeast Asian nations held a three-way summit on Tuesday with China and 6 Persian Gulf countries. This is in efforts to expand economic engagement and bolster resilience as they grapple with a volatile global trading system due to U.S. tariff hikes. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, in his opening remarks, said the inaugural summit in Malaysia's capital, Kuala Lumpur, would open up a new chapter of dialogue and cooperation. Earlier on Tuesday, Anwar told a separate Asian GCC forum that partnership between the two blocs would be key to navigating an increasingly complex world due to economic uncertainty and geopolitical challenges.
So, ASEAN-GCC relationship will certainly be key in enhancing inter-regional collaboration, building resilience, and securing sustainable prosperity for all. Now, today's deliberations will be crucial in ensuring that our partnership remains dynamic, responsive, and impactful.
وقد شكلت قمة الرياض الأولى التي عقدت بين الجانبين في 20 أكتوبر 2023 انطلاقة ناجحة لرسم ملامح تعاون متكامل لنبني على هذا الزخم معتمدين على إطار التعاون الاستراتيجي 2024-2028 بوصف خارطة الطريق لوضع الأطر المؤسسية لهذه الشراكة وتحويلها إلى أدوات عملية قادرة على تحقيق التقدم المنشود. وتكمن أهمية هذه الشراكة في أن الجانبين يمثلان مجتمعين قوة اقتصادية وبشرية.
We're now going to break on Beyond the Continent. When we return, we'll bring you the rest of the stories. Don't go away. Now looking at the rest of the stories, Beijing is pushing back against criticism over its global lending practices as concerns mount over a looming debt crisis in some of the world's poorest countries. A new report by an Australian think tank warns that developing nations face a tidal wave of debt, with repayments to China expected to reach record highs in 2025. The report highlights growing financial pressure on low-income countries heavily reliant on Chinese loans. In response, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Ning defended Beijing's approach. Speaking at a press conference on Tuesday, she said China's investment and financing cooperation with developing countries fully complies with international norms and practices.
有关的中国企业是通过市场方式获得达尔文港的租约，其合法权益应当受到充分的保护。告诉你的是，中国同发展中国家的投融资合作遵循国际惯例、市场规则和债务可持续原则。少数国家散布所谓的中国债务责任论，避而不谈多边金融机构和发达国家商业债权人才是发展中国家的主要债权方和偿债的压力源。根据联合国海洋法公约，冲之鸟是礁而不是岛，不能拥有专属经济区和大陆架。日方以冲之鸟礁主张专属经济区违反国际法。中国科考船在该海域活动是行使公海自由，日方无权干涉。
Oman's Sultan Haytham bin Tariq has received Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian in Muscat for a two-day visit aimed at promoting peace and stability in the region. Pezeshkian's trip coincides with ongoing nuclear negotiations between Iran and the United States, mediated by Oman. In a televised statement before his departure, Pezeshkian expressed hope for constructive dialogue leading to a shared perspective on regional issues. The talks aim to resolve disagreements over Iran's uranium enrichment program, with the U.S. seeking a halt to enrichment and Iran insisting on maintaining it domestically. While the latest round of talks in Rome concluded without a formal agreement, both sides characterized the discussions as constructive and agreed to continue dialogue. And that's all on the news on Beyond the Continent. Don't forget to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. While you do that, follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Well, you can also watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, GoTV, channel 23, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekon Onabanjo.